Welcome to Choosing to Be, your home for intimate conversations on transformation. This is Amanda Wirtz-Rosalowski, and I'm delighted to share this time with you. Welcome. We are going to talk about difficult people. Well, you probably have a lot of these conversations throughout your day. You hear about difficult people. Potentially you talk about difficult people. We could spend a lot of time talking about the difficult people, but I think it's more important to focus on the value of difficult people. 5 incredible values. Do you personally know a difficult person? If we're honest, we all have a list. Family members, colleagues, acquaintances, strangers, maybe even some of our friends. There may be even some prominent figures at the top of that list right now. We've all dealt with difficult people. Individually and collectively, we've stood and at times even been shoved in the shadows of their dark representations. Now, what is a difficult person? Because I believe people are not, at their core, inherently difficult. And here's my definition in the dictionary of Amanda. It would be an individual that has embodied characteristics and qualities that are ultimately destructive to our humanity. Things like hatred, condemnation, criticism, control, mean-spiritedness, manipulation, lies, exclusion, abandonment, judgment, inconsistency. My goodness, the list is long. And it's easy to be overwhelmed by these encounters, by these people and those representations. I know I've certainly been overwhelmed. But let's not give our power away. One of my personal mantras is to reject no part of my life. To reject no part of my life. If we choose, let's break it down. If we choose to believe that all experiences have value, and if we are insistent, please be insistent, on experiencing the highest value from all people and all circumstances, that we will begin to see that difficult people have a lot to offer. And I want to highlight 5 incredible values today. This is like gold. So let's cash in. Let's cash in on the value of difficult people. Look, if we have to navigate these relationships anyway, let's glean as much as we possibly can. Let's suck, because we can and we want to. Let's suck the marrow dry on this one and leave feeling satisfied as a result of our explorations. That doesn't mean that we have to like how they're showing up or even accept it. But let's feel satisfied as a result of our explorations rather than decimated by their choices. Value number 1. Difficult people, now remember my definition, it isn't the person, it's their behavior, the embodiment of these less than humane representations. They help us create and maintain boundaries. Our reaction to their behavior may call us to action. It may call us to make a change. It may call us to move in a new direction. We can trust our feelings to say, no, thanks. Not here, not in this way, not anymore. Value number 2, they help us develop skills and gain insight that we would otherwise not have had. We learn how to better navigate difficult feelings. We learn to negotiate conflict more effectively. we get to practice a higher degree of self-care and self-compassion. Speaking of compassion, value number 3, they can bring us together in community to care for one another, to band together in compassion or for a cause. Value number 4, these encounters can create, speaking of compassion, compassion for others who have suffered similarly. There is an interesting Psychology Today article entitled, "The Overlooked Payoff to Suffering is Compassion." It was written by Dr. Megan Shen, who shared, quote, "The people who are often the best at supporting you in a meaningful way are those who went through something similar." She goes on to say the takeaway is that the greatest payoff of suffering is not resilience, but compassion. This includes compassion for ourselves as well as for others who are suffering. That's an incredible value. Value number 5, the compassion you develop has a powerful ripple effects. There are some implications for your own well-being. Compassion shows an increase in health, optimism, and even your cognitive strength. Research shows that these effects are so profound they can still be measured 15 years later. But it doesn't stop there. Compassion also makes you more likely to step up for others, whether that's lending a hand, donating, or easing someone else's pain. It's a win-win for everyone. These are 5 priceless values. And as a result of difficult people, thank you. But wait, there is more. I feel like this is an infomercial. If you're buying that one, and I hope you do, I'm offering a special once in a lifetime insight. Operators are standing by for the first 8.2 billion people who call in to receive this truth. That's the current world population. Here's the bonus and potentially the most profound and impactful value. Difficult people have the power to redirect our steps away from what we don't want towards what we do want. They fundamentally help inform and affirm certain choices, especially about who we are choosing to be. And I want to talk more about that specifically. But first, we have to move into a place of quiet observation so that we can begin to allow that truth to unfold. It's far too easy to get swept up in the traumatic tide of these personalities. In fact, our brains are hardwired to fixate on perceived dangers, fight, flight, freeze. But in doing so, we lose our ability to think clearly, to process information, to make good choices. We may have so much resistance to how a difficult person is showing up that we may even generate within ourselves disdain, hatred, and fear. Now, here's the hook. It's normal to have a reaction, of course. But when we move into those states, we become the very thing we do not like. We've just celebrated Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, and he had 2 wonderful quotes on this exact experience. His advice: let no man pull you so low as to hate him. Martin Luther King Jr. had a lot of reason to hate. If anybody needed a reason to hate, he was a great example. He said, let no man pull you so low as to hate him. Don't become the embodiment of hate. His rationale, quote, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. We don't want to become or embody the very things that we find destructive. The temptation is there, and it's okay and actually very important to notice your feelings in response to a difficult person. But you don't want to camp out in those dark feelings. Do not pitch a tent there. You might say, well, it's just a small structure, like a shed. No, do not camp out there. Your internal real estate is so precious. It's called your peace. Resist the temptation to even put a lawn chair there. But people do this all the time. You want to be like other people? Do what they do. They put up a chair. They put up a tent. Maybe the tent has a patio. People build a skyscraper with a basement on those dark feelings. Notice how people do this. They set up a residence there. Notice how the media would have us do this. My gosh, they've mastered the art of keeping us hooked to our dark feelings. We've become accustomed to it. We've become addicted to it. But this is your life. Do you want to continue feeling that way? Do you want to generate more of what you don't want in this world? Do you want to miss the opportunity to grow beyond this person or that circumstance? Don't relinquish your power or your peace, especially to the people who have already disturbed it. Remember, your legacy is a living one, and you're living it right now. Okay, so, take a breath. Now what? First, let's make a decision to go to a place of peace within ourselves to explore what all this means for us. We can relax our thoughts on that and lean in with an open curiosity. What do difficult people have to teach us? Our reaction to difficult people teaches us about what we value most. If you feel tension or dissonance, notice. It's important to notice your feelings. If you feel tension, dissonance when you encounter cruelty, you value kindness. If controlling behavior agitates you, you value freedom and autonomy. If criticism triggers you, you may value encouragement. Take some time to notice what really bothers you about these encounters and flip it around. Flip it around. There is a value there. You can't necessarily change their behavior, but you can affirm that value within yourself. You can like that you have that value. Affirm your commitment to living out that value right now in the world you personally see, touch, taste, smell. Difficult people can also help illuminate our own limitations. We can explore the ways we have acted similarly. In fact, this is it's gonna get there. We often reject most in others that which we do not want to see in ourselves. Well, some of you may say, well, I've never done that, acted like that, been such a but we all have the capacity for all of life's representations, for better and for worse. If you have the opportunity to grow through the exploration of difficult people, to heal some part of your past, do it. That's a value, but maybe that's not you, and you've lived a squeaky clean and uplifting existence. You've joined the ranks with other ascended masters like Jesus and Buddha. I would love to meet you. But for the rest of us, we can take a look forgive ourselves, and apologize if that feels resonant and helpful. You can trust yourself on that. Have you ever expressed hatred, condemnation, criticism, manipulation? Have you ever lied, been inconsistent, or mean-spirited? I sure have. Every single one of those things. This is the dirty work of the truly self-aware, humble, and growth-oriented person. Because you've got to really want to evolve to go into the darkest shadows. And that's exactly where this can take you. But before you go beating yourself up, because that would be the embodiment of shame, let's not do that. Before you go beating yourself up, remember you are not what you've done. You're not what you've thought. You made choices, and you can like your choice for transformation now. For most of us, we have to go into the shadows to truly transform, to heal, to clean out the past. And I've discovered you can get some of the cobwebs out. And you'll have a nicer place to live inside of yourself. In my early 20s, I navigated a very abusive relationship. I didn't know much about abuse, mostly because I was blind to it, having swam in a sea of it the majority of my young life. Thankfully, things escalated to a point where I was uncomfortable enough to do something. Like I've said in previous podcasts, desperation is an incredible doorway. I started reading a book about abuse. I learned about the subtleties of verbal and emotional abuse. I hid the book under my bed and started highlighting what I was experiencing. It wasn't long until it became apparent that I was highlighting every page. I called a local domestic violence hotline, and before long, they prepared me to quickly and safely leave. What was most interesting about my own transformation was that after reading page after page of these destructive words and behaviors, I realized I had done at some point or another many of those things myself. I had harmed people. I had been abusive. I had the potential to do the very same things again. Was that ever a shocking and mortifying realization? And now I had a new commitment to learning about healthy communication, healthy relationships. I had a new commitment to myself to show up in a new way. I started studying the work of renowned psychologist Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. He has an amazing book I'd recommend to every single person. It's called Nonviolent Communication, a Language of Life. Life-changing tools for healthy relationships. But I took this a step further. I started attending nonviolent communication study groups. Yes. There is a meetup group for everything. This was before Meetup. Maybe I found it on Craigslist. Who knows? I remember sitting in a stranger's apartment with a group of total strangers practicing nonviolent communication, working through very difficult conversations with one another, role-playing real life difficult conversations. Boy, was that humbling. And boy, did I learn a lot. The strangers in these study groups really inspired me. They too had made a choice and they were working towards their dream of showing up in a new way. This story highlights perhaps the greatest value of all, the greatest value that difficult people have to offer. They can solidify in a very powerful way our commitment to our own character, how we want to show up right now, because that is all we have. But why care about our character? Character. We gloss over this. Character is a word in large, outdated font in a 1985 office poster featuring a mountain backdrop. Have you guys seen a poster like this? Character. This word is outdated, sadly. I'm trying to bring it back. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell. You certainly can't buy it. But some old dead people cared a lot about it. Socrates, Aristotle, Confucius, Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, Theodore Roosevelt. They had something to say. And we cannot escape the truth that everything we do is a byproduct of who we are choosing to be. You want to do great things for yourself, your family, your company, your community. Focus on being great. Get clear on what that even is, and you'll naturally do great things. If someone in your life or our collective life shows up as difficult, you can use that opportunity to affirm who you are choosing to be. You can embody the opposite. The opposite of darkness is light. Do this, not because you're mad or you're going to show them. Do it because you refuse to be darkness and you want to be a light bringer in this world for yourself, for your family, for your community, because there's no do-over. The opposite of darkness is light, and you can make that choice for you. If hate, choose love. If condemnation, choose acceptance. If criticism, encouragement. If control, choose freedom. If abuse, choose care. If manipulation, choose transparency. If exclusion, choose inclusion. If selfishness, choose altruism. Flip it around. If lies, choose honesty. This really came alive for me last month when I was lied to. It's not unique. I'm not special. We've all been lied to. I was lied to by someone close to me. Whoa, was that ever painful, disturbing, completely disruptive, with far-reaching implications. The very same day, I unexpectedly encountered a lie in a professional environment. Although I conceptually understood why each person chose to lie, I honestly felt unearthed. Then, the same day, I hit a parked car. You know that moment when you hear the scraping metal? You feel the jolt, and you know life cannot be undone. I had just done that. I hit a parked car. I got out of the car to assess the damage. It was bad. My car, miraculously fine. Theirs was really damaged. For a microsecond, is that a real thing? For a microsecond, I thought about just leaving. I do not enjoy admitting that, especially publicly, but I think it's important for the sake of this podcast. I thought about leaving, which means I thought about lying. And once again, I was faced with my own capacity to choose all things, the good, the bad, and definitely the ugly. That was so ugly, and I knew it. I knew even more clearly in that moment because of the lies that I had been a witness to, that I had been affected by, that I would not be a lie myself. My husband was still home. It was early in the morning, and I marched into the kitchen and I said, "Honey, I just hit a car." We walked down the street, and I left a very direct and apologetic note with my information. Later that day, I circled around the area, and I saw the man who owned the vehicle standing next to his car, surveying the damage. I thought I could just let him read the note. He could call me later. I could avoid some of all those feelings. Nope. That's not who I'm going to be, I decided. So I will now walk into the eye of this hurricane and be a human to this person. I parked my car and I walked right up to him, confirming that I was indeed the person who caused this damage. I apologized. I expressed remorse. I made a plan to get the damage assessed and fixed. What he did was even more shocking. This guy was a little bit of an angel. He looked at me and he said, "It's okay. I'm just glad you're not hurt." I will never forget that moment because he chose to be grace. Then he went on to tell me about how something had been stolen from his backyard recently, and he was just so grateful that I came forward. I didn't just come forward, I verbalized empathy about the disruption this likely caused. I made arrangements with multiple mechanics. I checked in on him. My daughter and I at Christmas brought his family a pie. The vehicle is in perfect shape now, and oddly enough, I somehow made a friend. When his vehicle was fixed, he sent me a heart emoji and, the hands clapping emoji. He said, "Thank you for fixing my car. I am so happy with you." I was happy with me. I mean, it cost me $900 and a lot of time and energy. I'm happy with me. I still am. Holy cow, did I ever get to refine and practice as a result of the difficult people in my life? Because a lie, I am honesty. It just reaffirmed my value, my commitment. There are difficult people everywhere. P.S. Sometimes we're one of them. They're in our past, they're in our present, and they're certainly in our future. Let's be aware of and take responsibility for the time and energy that we spend disliking difficult people. It takes a lot of energy. It can be totally exhausting and inflammatory to our mental, physical, emotional well-being. I'm speaking from personal experience. A lot of energy. We are in the position to make a choice to redirect that immense energy and affect change in the one area of life that we actually have control over. That's ourselves. This could be a very empowering and an even energizing process to realize we can do it and then move into the position of gleaning the value from these people and these encounters. Let's make the most of it. Difficult people are not our adversaries. They're people here to help usher in greater clarity, improved focus, and a stronger commitment to ourselves and our path. They help us create and maintain boundaries. They help us develop skills and gain insight that we otherwise would have not have had. They help us foster self-compassion and compassion for the suffering of others. They help to clarify and solidify who we are choosing to be. Today, use the difficult people in your life to affirm your values, to heal your past, increase your insight and skills, and decide who you are choosing to be. Then go be that person in the life that you have now, with the people you encounter now, online, on the street, in every corner of your life. Who you are does matter. How you show up does matter. And every expression of yourself counts. Never underestimate the contribution of your character. It is the most powerful thing you have. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it and subscribe. If you have a question, an idea for a future podcast, send me a text through Buzzsprout. Thank you for being part of our growing community. Until next time, this is Amanda Wirtz-Rosalowski, celebrating your highest and most important choice, who you are choosing to be.